of this show. Now, when I come back, I'll give you an idea what we'll be discussing today on the Voters' Diary and the gentleman with which I'll be having the discussion with. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the Voters' Diary. My name is Vivian Kai Lokko. Now, today I'll be having the discussion with Bernard Avle. He heads, he's a general manager here at City FM and City TV. Also, the breakfast show host for radio. He's on every day from 6:30 to 10 a.m. Bernard, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
And then I have Kojo, Akoto, Boateng. He's also on the breakfast show every day from 6:30 to 10 a.m. And he also heads our new media department here at City FM and City TV. Kojo, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian. I love your dress.
Thank you. Made in Ghana.
Made in Ghana?
Yes.
Nice, nice, nice.
So guys, we have been discussing the Greater Accra region, a very key region. In the election. Yesterday we looked at Odo and looked at some...
Take your time. Odo.
Why did they change it to Odo from the... Why? Anyway, so we discussed that extensively and then looked at some of the constituencies that were around that constituency. Today we'll move to about 5 other key constituencies within the Greater Accra region. So I think we can start. Yes. Bernard, which key in general, give us that. Then
what I wanted to say by intro is that, so, you know, yesterday we spent a bit of time on Odo. So what's happening is that from 92 to 2020, it's 28 years. So our first competitive parliamentary election is 96, okay? So constituencies that used to exist in certain names in 92 and 96 started changing because urbanization was coming in, population growth was coming. So a lot of rural communities that didn't used to have inhabitants all of a sudden became habitable. So for example, in 1996, if you look at the constituencies that the Greater Accra region had, I'll give you some interesting numbers. So Gas South, there was a constituency called Gas South. And the MP for the constituency was called Margaret Clark Kwesi. Okay. Then in 96, there was a constituency called Ashaiman, which constituency MPP won in 2000. But it's not the same Ashaiman you have today. Okay. Then there's a constituency called Gar North in 96 and 2000, which doesn't exist anymore. Please, do you follow my logic?
Yes, please.
Good. Now, in 96, Adenta constituency didn't exist. Okay, Weja constituency didn't exist. Anya constituency didn't exist. Trobu constituency didn't exist. In fact, Trobu Amasaman didn't exist. So it was Gar North, Gar South, Ashaiman. But as people kept moving into the country, the region, okay, the coastal constituencies have been there for long. The middle ones have been there for long. But Gar South covered everything from English, Amanfro, to Weja, to Anya, to Amasaman, to Trobu.
Okay, Gar South.
Good. So in 96, Margaret Clark Kwesi was the MP.
For that vast area.
Good. Then they increased the number of constituencies in 2000, 2004, and 2012. So out of Gar South, you initially had 2 constituencies created, and then later on 3 more.
Okay. So these are...
So Gar South then had Trobu Amasaman. Okay. And then they had Domiabra Obom. And then it had Weja. So they in the year 2000, we had 3 constituencies emerging from this Gar South place. Okay. Trobu Amasaman, Domiabra Obom, and Weja. Good. Then later on, Trobu Amasaman was split into Trobu and Amasaman.
Yes.
Then Domiabra Obom maintained its Domiabra Obom nature. Then Weja became Anya, Sotum, Weja Bawe, and English Botiano. So 3. So out of Gar South, how many do you have now? Trobu, Amasaman, Domiabra Obom, Weja, Anya, and English is 6.
Oh,
so the constituency that Margaret Clark Kwesi was MP in 96 now is 6. That's the way I want to think about this. And all these constituencies spread all the way from the coast on the western part of Accra all the way to Amasaman. Now, today, this is Ga South and Ga West together, right? So you are driving to Kumasi, you hit Amasaman before you leave Accra. You are driving to Cape Coast, you hit Botiano before you leave Accra. So from Botiano to Amasaman, that semicircle was just one constituency. Ga South, NDC was the MP. Now you produced 6 out of it, which is now nicely split between NDC and MPP.
Okay.
Second issue, and I'll come to the details. Ga North.
Ga North, yeah.
96.
So the Ga South, we killed it in 90.
First death was in 2004.
2004.
Then the second death was in 2012.
Okay.
So it had 2 deaths.
2 deaths. Okay, nice.
Now,
Ga North.
Ga North in 1996 was also an MPP constituency.
Okay.
S. Samuel Otudakun was the MP. I remember because I was in secondary school, so I saw his poster at Zongo Johnson. S. O. Dakun was the MP for Ga North, MPP guy.
And this covered?
This covered what we now call Abokobi, Madina, Domi Kwabenya.
So Abokobi, Madina, and Domi Kwabenya.
So it was broken in 2004 to create Abokobi, Madina, and Domi Kwabenya. Okay, so then you have, because in 2000, S.O. Dakun was still the MP for Ga North. But now Ga North was split into 2. So Abokobi, Madina became 1, Domi Kwabenya became 1. Then you have Domi Kwabenya tending MPP, Abokobi, Madina initially tending NDC, and now we have Madina, which is an MPP candidate. So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
96.
So Domi Kwabenya 2.
Good. So you have 2 constituencies out of that.
The Ga South, okay.
Now, I'm dealing with places which are in the outskirts.
Yes.
Okay, then you have Ashaiman.
Yes.
In 1996, the MP for Ashaiman was called Aheto.
Aheto.
Mr. T.W.K. Aheto. He was an NDC guy.
Okay.
Now, I remember visiting friends at housing, when they moved to housing, and the posters for parliamentary candidates had Ashaiman constituency, and the guy Aheto's poster was there in Adenta housing in 96.
96.
Good. Then in 2004, they split it into Adenta and Ashaiman.
Okay.
Please,
so
are you following me?
This is very far away from the Ashaiman we know now.
No, it's the Ashaiman plus. So Ashaiman was all the way from the Ashaiman you know plus Adenta.
The Adenta, okay.
And this Adenta includes all the way to, they call it Bintana and all those areas. Adenta is about 6 or 7. Amranya and Co.
Is he trying to say that Bintana is
No, that's my constituency.
Oh.
Yes, that part. So think about it.
Okay, so
at the end of the motorway, Ashaiman starts on your left.
Yeah.
You are driving to Dodowa, Bintana, Amranya. Before you get to Ibi, it's also Ashaiman. That's how big it was.
Huge.
Good. So that was split. For some reason, Punkatamanso was not split.
Yeah.
Punkatamanso, again, if you have the Greater Accra map.
So you said 3
Please
places
put this map up there for me.
3 places
Yes,
that
good.
have been killed.
Good.
Ga South, Ga North, Ashaiman.
So
why are you introducing Punkatamanso
Nimba.
now?
So you see that on the left side of your map,
Yes.
I have Ga South and Ga West and Ga Central. All those places used to be called Ga South, which Margaret Clarkwesi was the MP, which now has 6 constituencies.
Yes.
Very good. Ashaiman up north and Botiano down left, with all the communities in between. Then, now, still on the map, ignore the 4 constituencies on the right because they are the rural, Adan East, Adan West, Shai Osudoku. Now, Ashaiman is the small round orange in there.
Over there, okay.
Now, Ashaiman and Adenta and part of Punkatamanso were one constituency.
Okay, so that's your
Do you follow me?
Yeah.
That has now been split into 3, where Ashaiman now has become an NDC stronghold. Initially, Adenta was won by MPP. You need to know this history so you can know why some constituencies behave the way they do. Now, I'm saying Punkatamanso is interesting because Punkatamanso starts from the sea, look on the map, between Ningo Prampram and Tema. But it goes all the way to Shai Osudoku's head, touches Adenta, touches parts of Madina. So even though it is a very big constituency, it doesn't have that large population, but it has a lot of unsettled places. Now, some of the the electoral areas in Punkatamanso, just to give you a sense of how wide it is, there's a place called Hebron, Apollonia. Apollonia is between, there's a place called Atadeka, beyond beyond Nanakrom, all the way to behind Oyibi. Apollonia is in Katamanso. Meanwhile, when you are going from Tema to Aflao, you get to Kpun. That's also Kpun. Do you follow? So which is why this map is important, because it tells you that they were trying to sort of partition it, slicing the pie nicely all the way. Okay. So Katamanso, then by the way they carved out Ashaiman and Adenta, is an NDC constituency. Okay. So far I've explained Ga South and how it became 6.
Yes.
I've explained Ga North and how it became how many? 2.
2, yeah, 2 main.
Then I've explained Ashaiman and how it became Ashaiman and Adenta.
Yes.
Good. So now we can discuss the constituencies that we want to discuss now. Okay. So today we want to look at Medina. You want to look at Adenta. You want to look at Ashaiman. Yes. What's the history? How come they vote the way they vote?
Let's start with Ashaiman.
In fact, I wanted to help.
You can pick any you want.
I wanted to help a bit with some historical satellite images, right?
Okay.
Now, the Greater Accra region has changed since 1996. If you look at the population then, if you look at urbanization rates then, it's not the same now. So if you look at this particular map I'm showing on the screen, this is a Google satellite image of the Greater Accra region in 1996.
Can we have that on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great.
This is a Google satellite image of Greater Accra region in 1996. Now, if you see where the hand is or where the cursor is, this is still rural Greater Accra.
So this was prior to the split Bernard
Yes. Now, so the Adan area, you see the place is basically inhabited, right? Small towns and villages. Now, if you come to Accra proper, so this is Tema. You see houses. When you start seeing brown, a lot of brown, then you see settlements in the area, right? So Tema has houses. But as we go to the Afenya area and the Bichley area, so this is Bichley, right? You see green shrubs and all those things there. So those places were a bit uninhabited. So the populations were not that big, small villages and towns. Same for a lot of these places. Like if you go to the Amasaman area, you are seeing a lot of green now, right? With some brown and all those things, showing that it was a bit more rural. Now, as we come forward into the latter years, the year 2000, things start changing. You see a lot of the green areas turning brown, meaning vegetation has been cleared, houses are being put up there, right? So populations will be increasing, and the more population you get, the more the need to relook at the constituencies and the demarcations and related matters. So that's one of the urban development trends that explain these things. Now you get to 2004, you are seeing more green. In fact, the Amasaman areas that used to be very green are now being occupied. We are seeing more houses. Dom Kabenya is spreading to the left into the Amasaman areas. Adenta municipality is also changing. So if you check out Adenta, you are seeing houses spreading to Amrahia. You see all this green here in Amrahia. Now if I fast forward to say 2016. Yes, you said A. A lot of the green areas have now become brown.
Wow.
People are living there. So Greater Accra, which had the northern parts of Greater Accra going to the western, eastern, all being green and largely rural, are now becoming very urbanized. So Greater Accra moves from urbanization rate of say 60-70% to now almost 90, 92, 95%. A population of over 5 million people. It's grown from the 2 millions, 3 millions, all the way to 5 million. So if you have a constituency which had a population of say 120,000, what do you do with it? If you have a constituency like the Ga North and the Ga South, which were discontinued and broken down, what do you do with these places? Per the electoral rules and the structures, you have to really look at some of these places. So that's how come we've seen constituencies being cut. It wasn't divided because we sit down and say, oh, let's just break down the constituencies. Populations increase, the dynamics change, and you have to look at some of these things and change them. But as Bernard rightly said, the Bon Katamanso area, or is it Bon Katamanso, the place has changed drastically from being a rural area to a fast urbanizing area, but it's not really changed. You walk from the Tema area, so this is the Pon area, right? You can take a drive through these areas. This is Afenya, Sebrepo. Now the Apollonia he mentioned is here, where my hand is. Amrahia is also here. So this is Amrahia, this is Oyibi, and this area is Apollonia City, right? It's all part of Bunkataman, so all the way from the coast inland, almost to the eastern region. So it's that constituency which is a bit confusing if you have to campaign in there because of the landscape and the structure of the area.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's start with a confusing constituency in terms of the Katamanso area, and then the nature of that constituency, the way the political parties are divided there and all that.
So if you show the map I had again, I think I can explain why Katamanso votes the way it does. Because if you put your compass point on the red point and you draw a semicircle, so Accra is the center, right? And you are basically trying to split up the outskirts of Accra. You split Ga South into 6 constituencies, okay? Then you split what is Ga East and Lankwantanai in your middle. So the Ga East is your Dome Kwabenya, the Lankwantanai is your Madina. Do you understand? Then your Adenta and Ashaman used to be one. You split that as well. And then you have Katamanso. We've already told you that the more you move to the right, the stronger NDC is. Adan East NDC, Sege NDC, Shao Sudoku NDC, Ningo Pram NDC. So constituency lines are not that demarcated, it's very fluid. So Katamanso has a lot of characteristics of Ningo Pram and Shai Osudoku. Okay, so if you listen to some of the names of the places, Sebrepo, Kakasunaka, Marusanda Hotel Kakasunaka is a name in Hausa. So a lot of the people that are Fulani people who rear cattle, a lot of them who used to graze in the Accra plains will settle at Kakasunaka. Okay, then you have, so if you're going to, what do you call it? If you're on the Ashaiman Road, on the right side, part of it is Katamanso. Okay, so the nature of the people, their lifestyle, and their historical voting behavior is a strong NDC. You move upwards, Apollonia. There are places in that constituency called Fulani. There's an area behind Amrahia called Fulani area. Same thing, because a lot of these constituencies, you have water spots for cattle to graze. And because Fulanis are migrant, they have small communities there. So some of you living there, I mean, I'll give you a small anecdote. One of the young men we put on the, what do you call it, Coop. Umaru Sanda had gone to visit a relative at Atadika, where he met the family. So there are lots of people like that there. So Katamanso has, since record started, been a green state. So if you look at Katamanso, before even Nia Fotiago came, it's been won by NDC consistently by a 60-40 margin. And so that's Katamanso. There's nothing much to say.
In fact, if we can go through the numbers to show how Katamanso has been, I'll start from 2004. So 2004, NDC won, and the percentage difference, the margin percentage was 79%.
Very
so that was a very strong win.
So it's almost like Adan East or Shai Osudoku.
And then in 2008, the runoff, NDC won 35%. So it dropped actually. 2012, NDC won 20%. 2016, NDC won less than 10%. So even though it's been an NDC seat, you realize that from 2004 all the way to 2016, NDC has been winning, but their margins are dropping.
Why is that? Why are we seeing the drops in the margin?
Because the makeup of the constituency is changing. People are moving. The type of people moving there. So a lot of estates moving into a community changes the makeup of the constituency, makes it more middle class. The more middle class you have, the more they vacillate. Now, you can't say middle class vote for one party, but if you look at so people will typically own their own houses. They put up a house there, so they will go for, so if you go to a place like Adenta and they do a local governance meeting, some will go and ask questions. So they are more amenable to voting on basis of roads or security or something. Unlike simply saying, we have nothing to do with the political parties, all we know is that we vote MPP, all we know is that we vote NDC. So it becomes a bit more nuanced. So it's tightening the races in places where you have urbanized movement. Okay, now this gets better explained when you look at Ashaiman, because in 96, the Ashaiman we know was an NDC seat because you have the current Ashaiman and Adenta together. But in 2000, MPP won Ashaiman, which was still the two. So it wasn't such a clear cut for NDC. So you couldn't say in 96 that Ashaiman was an NDC stronghold. It was a mixed bag. Okay, now Rawlings built the housing estates in the 90s. It began to change the character of that overall area. So by the year 2000, you have many families moving who live in housing. Then you have housing down. Then you now have new Legon communities that now are there, which didn't exist 20, 30 years ago. Okay, so the Ashaiman that MPP won in 2000 is very different from the Ashaiman that we go to today. Because when they now split it in 2004 and now made Adenta, and then made Ashaiman, what happens? 2004, Opare Hammond wins the seat for MPP, and then Agbeshi wins for NDC. Agbeshi wins very strongly, but Opare Hammond wins a narrow margin. So what they did was that the way they split it, the Ashaiman part has characteristics of Katamanso. So it becomes a 60-40 for NDC. But then the Adenta remaining part is very close. So 2008, you then have NDC winning, 2012 Ashimo winning, 2016 MPP coming back. So it's become, Adenta has then become the, I feel, the part that is now behaving like an urban area where they would decide on issues more. Because they are, even though they are rural, again, if you look at the, just to give a quick flavor of the Adenta's electoral areas. Now, these electoral areas should tell you what is going on there. So you have
Adenta has Kose.
Ajiringano. Okay, Ajiringano is where Rawlings lives. Ajiringano is from American House Junction all the way to Rawlings' house. The first time I heard of the word Ajiringano, I laughed. I said, "What's Ajiringano?" It was just a bush. This was like early 90s. Somebody came to visit us and said he lives at Ajiringano. And when my mother was asking where, he said, "Oh, it's near Motorway." It was so far. He was the only person who lived there. This is like 92. Now, Ajiringano is highly urbanized, lots of shops. They are even thinking of dualizing another portion of the road. In fact, the dual carriage they are doing it from the boundary road after East Legon police station, it's going to Ajiringano. So there's Otano. Otano is actually Rawlings Junction to School Junction. That's also seen as Ajiringano. Then there's Ni Ashale Botre. Okay, again, those who lived in Medina for many years, Ashale Botre used to be the outskirts of Medina.
Away,
in fact, the last stop from Medina was Maya Hot. Then you now look for a car that will take you to Ashale Botre. As for Maijo, we hadn't even heard of it before. Okay, this is just early 90s. Then you have Ogbojo. Now we have a place they call Manhe. Bentana is Kojo's side. Bentana is when you're moving to beyond Frafraha to Ashie, to Amrahia, to Oyibi. That's all part of Bentana. Which there's a short route. Again, we are discussing routes. There's a short route from that place to Ashaiman. So there's the shortest route between Medina and Ashaiman is not the motorway. It's actually through Nanakrom, Santor. So there are shorter routes there. Which
there are
is
also routes from there to the Nanakrom Junction. There are routes from there you can use to connect to Lakeside. So the connections are there.
So I'm just explaining why Adenta is the way it is. So you have Ajiringano, very urbanized, Otano, urbanized, Maijo, urbanized now, Ni Ashale Botre, historical place, Ogbojo, urbanized, there's Manhe, there's Bentana, Kojo's place, lots of small towns are there, farming communities. There's a place called New Adenta, there's New Legon, there's Kose, there's Amrahia Malejo, and then there's Mamumu. So Adenta has, I think, about 50-50 urban-rural. Okay, so it's not very predictable. That's why if you look at Adenta's victories, so voting pattern, 2004, MPP, very slight margin. Kojo can check the figure. Kojo Opare Hammond. Okay, then 2008, Edu Asari, NDC, slight margin. 2012, Emmanuel Ashimo, who's originally from Teshi. Ashimo had tried Teshi in 2008. Yes. So then Ashimo comes back and wins. He's Adenta. Then 2016, Wabian Samoa comes to take over. So it's been NDC, sorry, MPP, NDC, NDC, MPP. Okay. And my argument is that it's because it's become an ideal bellwether state because it has all the characteristics. The MCO of Adenta is always under pressure. Because people who live as far as Zoom Lion are calling him. People who live as far as Amrahia are calling him. He doesn't have enough IGF. Yet there's a lot of awareness in his constituency about issues. And they have many road problems because new communities are coming. So most of the roads that we get complaints on the City Breakfast Show are in Adenta constituency. He doesn't have enough resources to do the roads. So Ashaiman is an MDC stronghold because the cosmopolitan part was carved out. And the parts that were left were places which had both historical and ethnic makeup of typical NDC voters, which is why Ashaiman becomes an important seat for NDC now. Okay. Now, if you move it to the left, Medina, Abokobi, Dome Kwabenya is the exact opposite of what I just described for you. Because North was MPP. When they split it into Madina Abokobi and Dome Kwabenya, the larger part was Dome Kwabenya, which MPP wins 80-20 sometimes. It's now 60-40. Then they left Madina Abokobi. So Madina Abokobi is now the Adenta. Ashaiman is now the Dome Kwabenya. So Michael Kwe then becomes a two-term MP for Dome Kwabenya. If you look at the margin Michael Kwe had in his first two elections, it's very similar to what Agbeshi had, but just that one for MPP, one for NDC. So I think somebody decided to design this thing. Then they left Madina. Madina is also a nice mix, okay? Parts of West Adenta is Madina. Abokobi is Madina, but you have Zongo, which is Madina. The Madina New Road and Old Road. Mix of Akans, Ewes, Northness. It's a nice Zongo community. So Madina was initially strongly NDC, but I also argue that because there are developments around the uninhabited portions that are becoming more and more like Adenta, so it's becoming a closer race. Okay, so it's not just because they brought, what's his name, Boniface Abubakar Sadiq. It's because the nature of Madina is also changing. All right, because they are having the same challenges Adenta people have. So in a sense, Adenta and Madina have become the more bellwether components of the old Ashaiman and the old Ga North. Okay. So MPP strong in Dome Kwabenya, NDC strong in Ashaiman. Madina, Adenta have become very close. Just look at the numbers for Madina.
Okay, so if you check Madina on this particular chart, in the year 2004, presidential NDC won, right? 2008.
They won it well.
They didn't really win it well. It was just under 10%, about 4 points.
You're using percentages, not numbers, okay.
Yes, I can give you the numbers.
No, go on, just go ahead.
Now, 2008, NDC won presidential properly, about 14%. 2012, almost the same thing.
Yes.
Then 2016, they won it, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
MPP won it, the presidential in Madina, with just about 1%. So that's Adenta, so Madina, sorry. So Madina had been NDC weak, NDC strong, and MPP then wins it, but not very strong.
You notice something funny here? From 2004, there are some MPs who have become classmates. Amadou Sorogo entered parliament in 2004 for Madina. Okay. Alfred Kwame Agbeshi entered parliament in 2004 for Ashaiman. Nilaya Fotiabo entered parliament in 2004 for Bonkatamanso. They were in parliament 2004. They all maintained, in fact, Michael Kwe as well. So Michael Kwe, Amadou Sorogo, Agbeshi, Afotiabo all entered parliament in 2004 as a result of this split of Ga South, Ga North, and Ashaiman into these about 10 constituencies out of 3. They all won again. Sorogo, 2004, he won first time. 2008, he maintained his seat in Madina. 2012, he maintains his seat. Okay, same with Agbeshi. 2004, he wins. 2008, he wins. 2012, he wins. All of them leave in 2016.
Okay.
Afotiabo, 2004, 2008, 20. The only one that's different is that Michael Kwe, he won only 2 and Adjo Asafo took over in 2012. Okay, so you need to look at that evolution. So now, let me just give you some of the places in Madina.
No, but hang on. Let him finish with the numbers, and then we will take them one by one.
So where do we go first?
We are still Madina, right?
Okay, so Madina, if you want the absolute numbers,
yes.
For example, NPP in 2004 got 28,000 votes. NDC got 31,000 votes.
So 3,000.
Right. The difference is about 2,400.
Okay.
Now, in 2008, NPP got 27,000 votes. NDC got 36,000 votes. The difference, 9,100.
Okay.
Now, 2012, NPP got 34,000. NDC got 45,000. So large difference, about 10,000.
2012 was an outlier.
And then 2016, NPP 37,000. NDC 36,000. So you see NDC taking over in 2016 with just about 870 votes. So it's not much. So the difference is very small. Whoever pushes enough and convinces the people could win the seat.
You know why Madina is the way it is? Because very similar to Adenta. So if you go to Damfa, now where is Damfa? If you are driving to Ebri, when you get to Ayi Mensa is Madina, right? So the last barrier out of Accra when you're going to the eastern region.
Okay. Bernard, I want you to hold on with the Madina. I'll take a quick break. I don't want to rush you there. I'll take a quick break. When we come down, we'll look further into the Madina case. Stay with us.
grandma really knows how to take care of her family. Now, it's my turn. And like her, I only want the freshest food. I'm glad there's Samsung Twin Cooling Refrigerator, which retains 70% humidity, extending freshness up to 2 times longer. And with extended freshness, I can extend my care for my family.
So welcome back to the Voters Diary. We want you to be part of this conversation. You can send us a message via Facebook or Twitter. Remember to add the hashtag Voters Diary, or you can send us a message via the numbers on your screens. We're looking at about 6 constituencies in the Greater Accra region. Medina, we're looking at Medina, Adenta, Ashaman, Amasaman, Ponkatamanso. If you live in any of these constituencies, what do you think? You can send us a message. Who would you be voting for? Would it still be a blue or a green or vice versa? But Bella, let's come back to the Medina case. Yes. So give us an idea of this Medina proper.
So a lot of times when people hear Medina, they think it's such a strong NDC place because it sounds like Nima.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, when I was in Medina, a lot of when you're going out of Medina on Sunday evening and you can't get a circle car, you take a Nima Mamobi car because a lot of the families live in Nima. So sometimes they come to Medina and they go back. Okay. So it's just a little small story there. But again, Medina is like Adenta because while some people have been there for many, many years, there are parts of the constituency that used to be uninhabited but are now becoming inhabited. So for example, Damfa. 20 years ago, okay, again, we had family friends who used to live with us in Medina. When they make a lot of money and they want to move out of Medina, okay, they got land at Damfa. The first time we went to Damfa, when we got to Ayi Mensa, we were not getting a car. When we got to Ayi Mensa, where the barriers, we had to wait for like 3 hours. This is like in the 90s.
90s, okay.
Because Damfa was a village.
Okay.
Last week, I went to Damfa with Omani and Samens. It took us less than an hour from a village called Utinibi to CTFM. Utinibi. So see what's happening. You get to Ayi Mensa, Damfa, Utinibi, then you go to Amrahia. So Medina, even Utinibi is Medina. So my point is that it's become very fast developed. Lots of people are building there. Even the small Ghana villages are still there. People buy lands around and still live. So if you're going to Utinibi village, you still drive through it. If you're going to, there's a place called, there are some estates around, you still drive through the town. It's like Agbogba. Okay. If you get to Agbogba, you would drive through a Ghana community and still have people live. Yeah. And they coexist nicely. So if in 96, the only people who were voting in Agbogba were the small Accra community there, you had like all of a sudden another 10,000 people who have moved around. Okay. Yeah. So Medina and Adenta are polar opposites. They are constituencies that have to be watched very closely. Anybody who tells you they know who's going to win Medina or Adenta must either be God or must have some very special predictive powers. Because the people in those constituencies are very awake. They have genuine problems. I remember Farida did a story about people in Damfa who didn't have a police station. They put up a building, they wanted the police to occupy. The police said, this is not up to standard. Armed robbery was a big issue there. So they will be more and more unpredictable or less and less predictable as the years go by because they have all the elements of unpredictability, partly urban, partly rural, local Ghana community, migrant community, big market, huge. The biggest market in that part of town is Medina. Yeah. So anybody who lives within that area wants to go to a market, a proper market is Medina. Medina market, again, used to be very tiny, all right? The market now starts from Zongo Junction all the way to Taxi Rank. That's to Redco. So in the past, when you're going to Adenta, you get down at Firestone, then you get to Zongo Junction, and then you get to Rich Junction. Now, when you get to Zongo Junction, between Zongo Junction and Redco, all the way to the right, Medina Market is big. Okay. Again, there are issues there with the powers between. So, for example, if you are the MP for Medina, what's the relation between the MC for Medina? Okay. Again, Umar Osanda went to do a story some time ago where people in Medina wanted to protest, and they had to take the MP to try and intervene. There was this whole conversation about the MP versus the MCE. Okay. So, Medina and Adenta have become your bellwether in the outskirts of Accra. Domi Kwabenya and Ashaman have become your more predictable constituencies. So far, that's the argument I've made. So if you look on my map, I think I've addressed a few issues. I've addressed Bunkatamanso, I've addressed Ashaiman, I've addressed Adenta and Madina. And of course, Madina is now, it used to be called Madina Abokobi, but the assembly is called Lankwantanan Madina.
Okay.
Do you get it? Because the two biggest parts of Madina are Lankwantanan. So even though it's called Madina Abokobi, Lankwantanan is the district, but it's called Madina Abokobi constituency.
Okay.
Do you follow the logic?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now,
Great.
the only issue I haven't addressed in terms of electoral numbers are Amasaman, Trobu. It used to be called Trobu Amasaman. We haven't dealt with that yet. We haven't dealt with Weja, Anyaso, Tom. We haven't dealt with all those. Because that's a very interesting story. I don't know if we have enough time to discuss that. Because again, following the splits, it seems as if there's some logical reason for the splits. Because think about it. Ga South in 96 is a strong NDC. Okay. But you break it up. In 2004, you break it up into three. You have Trobu Amasaman, you have Domi Abra Obom, and you have Weja. This is when Shele Akoto entered parliament for Weja. Dauda Anum Yemu, Domi Abra Obom, and then MPP wins Trobu Amasaman. Okay, so a lot of people think Amasaman is strong NDC. Trobu Amasaman has elements of MPP and NDC 50-50. When they split Ga South into three, a part that became strongly NPP was the part that was closer to the west. That's Weja. It's called a Weja constituency, right? Then Domi Abra Obom was the more rural part of Ga South. You remember Dom Fase?
Yeah.
Okay. Very similar to places in Ashaiman, very similar to places around beyond Madina. So Dauda Anum Yemu won the first seat for NDC. NDC has won Domi Abra Obom since it became a constituency. All right. Then Trobu Amasaman was won by MPP. Then NDC took over in the next election. Then they split it into two. So initially it was won by NPP. Then this is the year 2004. Samuel Ato won the seat for MPP. Then in 2008, the NDC won it. It hadn't been split still. It was won by Ernest Atukwe Ama. So if Kojo checks Trobu Amasaman numbers for you, it's been very close between the two parties until 2012 when they actually then divided it.
Yeah. So 2004, Amasaman, NPP won. It was a weak win.
Yes.
2008, NDC won. It was a weak win. And when they split, Amasaman, NDC won, and it was very strong. Right? They won Amasaman very strong. If you go down
then because
to Trobu,
Trobu was won by NPP.
if you go
very
down
strong.
to Trobu, you realize that Trobu was also won by NPP very strong in 2012.
So Amasaman, NDC captures it, and then
you look
NPP
at the
captures
geographical
Trobu.
area
Okay.
of Trobu Amasaman as a whole. The Amasaman part is more rural. The Trobu part is more urbanized.
True.
And you see that when it was split, NDC strongly won the rural part, and then NPP strongly won the urban part.
What's
And it gives you the
yeah.
impression that they both almost have the same powers, right?
yeah.
Or the same numbers. So when they were together, it was almost a swing constituency.
Which is why it behaved like Adenta and Madina.
Yeah.
But in this case, MPP won it and NDC won it. Listen to some of the places in trouble. Ofanko is the capital.
Yeah.
You have places like Tantra. Is that not where again
Tantra Hills,
Tantra Hill in the 90s? If you have a house in Tantra Hill, you are wealthy. Yeah, I think one of the footballers had a house in Tantra Hill.
Yes.
And
That was Tantra.
Ofanko shares
There
a
was
boundary
Ofanko
with
South and North.
the Dome, Kwabena area, the
Then
Taifa area. Which is more
Pokwase, where the
NPP,
interchange is taking place, is also in trouble. Pokwase, if you're driving to Kumasi, get to Pokwase before you get to Amasaman. Then there's a place called Amanfrom. So Amanfrom is the opposite. So if you're driving to Kumasi, Pokwase is on your right, Amanfrom is on your left. There's a hotel called Festus Hotel. So you usually get on Festus Junction, just go left. Then there's Fise. Fise. I don't know the guy for that.
Fise.
So listen to them in Fise. Then there's
Fise.
Then there's, I don't know what that means.
Fise is endorse it, right? Support it.
Then there's Omanjo. Omanjo is also there. There's Asofa.
Yeah.
Asofa. There's Afiaman. There's Abensu. All these are on the left side of the Accra Kumasi interchange. And my theory is that somehow people tend to migrate in clusters, and people tend to want to live near where their friends live. So if Vivian, because she's classy, builds a house in Adenta, she will call Jimmy to also come and build a house next, because she doesn't want Kojo to come next, because Kojo is not as classy as Jimmy.
That's if Jimmy is classy.
So that's the issue. So I feel that even though geographically they're on the same longitude, somehow the Trobu part tends to have more Akans, even though you still have communities, right? But listen to the Amasaman towns. Compared to, so Trobu, you have Trobu, Tantra, Ni and Kraman, Ofankor North and South, Omanjo, Asofa, Pokwase, then you have Fise, Amanfrom, and then Abensu. Listen to the Amasaman communities. You have Maira, Samsam, Sapeyman, Kuntunse, Midie, Akotoshi, Ajen Kotoku, Okushibiade, Ayikan Doblo, Nsakina, Manhian, Onyansana, Kwashikuma, Gono, Samsam, Dadeyman. More, so you know, and Samsam, we went there. These places.
Oh, this is interesting.
This is Wilkinson territory.
Yes.
Wilkinson territory. Again, farming communities.
Yeah.
Lots of great agriculture. The weather is fantastic. Kuntunse, great weather. Lots of the lands uninhabited. So we are told that the Ghans from these parts would walk there in the ages ago to farm there. So they still have very good agricultural lands. It's only recently that they started selling their lands to developers. Now, my argument is that when developers come to a place, they don't only change the soil quality and the weather quality, they also change the voting.
The voting pattern.
I won't call it voting quality, the voting pattern. But they gentrify the place. They remove a lot of trees. They plant a lot of houses. They build a lot of houses. Roads become very bad. The weather even changes, because if you have more greenery, there's rainfall is more amenable to greenery. So these places, if Kojo shows you the Google map for Amasaman 50 years ago, it was such a beautiful, luscious place. Now it's become it's like part of an urban jungle, which is not really very nice. So Amasaman became the stronger NDC part, and then Trobu, but it was also Trobu Amasaman, a huge constituency. The other point you need to know is that because of population increases, these changes are not just because of somebody wants to win power. You see, managing a space, you need a certain level of resources in an assembly to manage human beings. Now, if a population increases by 80 or 70% over a 50-year period, you cannot just have one assembly. Okay, because by the time somebody drives his car to the district assembly, it's like 3 hours. So as population increases, you need to create new assemblies and new constituencies, which is the logic behind breaking it up from Gas South. Imagine if from Botiano all the way to Amasaman was run by one person. Think about Botiano to Amasaman. That's not practical. So the Amasaman is the very strong NDC now. Even that is not that well, because if you look at the numbers, for some reason, NDC's dominance in Amasaman is reducing. Not so much MPP's dominance in Trobu. So if you put Trobu and Amasaman together, it used to be a bellwether state. But if you look at Trobu, they still maintain stronger MPP characteristics than NDC's Amasaman. You can let Kojo check the numbers.
So this is what is happening. You look at the Trobu areas. There are parts that border Dom Kabenya, right, which for years has been an NPP stronghold. And then the Omanjo parts that you mentioned, the Asufan parts. Interestingly, those areas are also changing. There's a lot of real estate development going on there. When the Pokwase Aoshi Road was constructed, it opened up that place. So if you listen to the places where people have road issues, this is the thing. When people start moving to new areas, building in new areas and living there, then they have a need for a road. So the areas where people complain a lot about their roads in this country, those areas are part of those areas. So development is growing up, it's growing very fast. In fact, 4 years ago, National Volunteer Day, we went to their primary school to build a reading area for them. Then this year I went there and the whole area had changed. Houses all over. So, and this is what happens. When people are building, let me use East Legon as an example. You go to the Baoleshi area. It's a typical Ga settlement, right? Now people started buying the lands and the houses of the indigenes, the typical Ga people, and they are building all these flashy houses, and people are moving in. So they are pushing the people away. And sometimes when they don't push them away, they dilute the system, because if new houses are coming, new people are coming, new families are coming, new businesses are coming. So East Legon has changed. Laboaleshi, which used to be a typical, you just see that now the core people are just in a small enclave, and the rest of the development is happening all around them. The same thing is happening in the Chobu area, even Amasaman. If you look at the map in 1984, come forward to 1996, it was all green, uninhabited, with a few villages and a lot of farmlands. Now all those areas have been opened up. There's some area Bernard was talking about.
So
Accra
most of
Technical University is moving there. Is it in Mpongwasem and all
from
those?
What you guys are saying, if you look at the Greater Accra region, most of these constituencies that typically or years back were very rural, though towards the NDC, immediately you have the urban infiltration or a lot of settlers coming in. This is diluted.
It makes it less predictable. There's something else I'll show you. Even though physically, in size of land, Amasaman is physically has more land than Chobu. Chobu has more voters than Amasaman, right? Because the Amasaman is sparsely populated. Kojo can check this if I'm lying. He can check.
You're right.
So Amasaman has more land, but has fewer people.
Okay.
Because there's vast spaces between the people. So look at the communities I mentioned. Amasaman, Sapeman, Kuntunse, Midye, Akoto.
So let's have the population size for the two.
But if you check Chobu, because Chobu has more development, so it's more densely populated, even though the land is smaller. Look at the voter numbers for Chobu. It's bigger.
So,
it's more.
so I wanted to show you the areas first on the map for you to understand how the area is. So if I zoom in this way, all this is the Chobu area.
Houses. So no green, all brown.
You see, all this is the Chobu area, and Dom Kwabena is here, right? See how huge the area is with all this green. Now, if we go up, this is the Amasaman area.
Very green.
You see, so even though development is catching up in the Amasaman area and is spreading, population density is lower than the population density in the Chobu area.
So Chobu is on your way to Kumasi before, and then Amasaman is behind. So in the way conurbations and how populations evolve, people move from the center outside. Do you understand? So if you're building a house, you don't go and start from the back. So because Chobu is closer to Achimota, people go there first before they go to Amasaman. That's why you have more brown in Chobu and green. So in the next 10 years, it will now move to So people will, because land will be cheaper further away and more expensive.
And you
closer
asked for the voter population. So 2016 total valid votes for Chobu was 76,251.
2016, okay.
Yes.
And
now
then
same year, total valid vote for Amasaman was 55,958. 2012, total valid vote for Chobu was 78,353. 2012, Amasaman was 57,523. So it shows you how, even though it has a bigger land space, you can say same about places like even Katamanso and
huge
the
land
Adan
space
area.
So Ashaiman, if you look at the map, Ashaiman is a very small round
but
dot.
every inch is occupied.
But Ponkatamanso is large, but the population is small. Just but look at quickly the numbers. Okay, so 2012, 2016, MPP is increasing from 47,000 in Chobu to 50,000. But NDC is reducing from 29,000 to 24,000. Okay, so this same issue we are saying, an MPP stronghold, they increased by 3K.
It became stronger.
NDC reduces by 5,000. Whereas for Amasaman, what's going on there? NPP is
22,000 in 2012. 2016 they go to 25,000. NDC 2012 34,000. In 2016 they dropped to 29,000.
So if you want to understand why Greater Accra fell to NPP, NDC lost a 12,000 gap
699
in Amasaman to a 4,000 gap. Whereas MPP increased what you could call
17,000
to a higher gap to about 25,000. Do you get me? So you are taking usually one constituency. So if it was the same constituency, MPP still have won it. Because MPP has done an increase of 17 to 25,000. NDC has dropped from 12,000 to 4,000. Okay, so this is how people should think about winning a region. I used to say winning a region. It's not just selecting one or two constituencies. It's looking at even what's happening within constituencies.
And
because if you
economic
just pick
activity.
and say, oh, Trobo is MPP, Amasaman is NDC, that doesn't answer the question. That's why you can have some party winning more seats, but another party winning the popular vote because the dynamics are different.
Yes, so if you go to Amasaman, for example, even though we say it's an NDC seat, the strength of the win is reducing. So NPP, when it was Amasaman Trobo, NPP won, it was weak 2%. Then the NDC won 8%. Then they split. NDC won 22%. And then 2016 was just a little over 7%. Now the place is also urbanizing. All sorts of estates are springing up. They moved, so the Accra Technical University now has a campus there. And places which used to be farmlands have all been bought for real estate. In the next 4 years, next 8 years, that place would also have caught up with places like Trobo and become full-fledged urban areas because development is also catching up. So the dynamics will change.
We didn't do Domikwabenya and compare to Ashaiman.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know if you have time. Then so this, again, think about it. Madina and Adenta together, too close to call. But Domikwabenya and MPP's gap is higher than Ashaiman and NDC's gap.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though they have similar population characteristics, MPP tends to do a bit better in Ashaiman than NDC does in Domikwabenya, which explains some of the issues. So, for example, people on the morning show will say, why is it that we in Abokobi and Ablaje, our roads are bad, but people in Taifa and Domi, their roads are good? Some people think that it's because the MPP stronghold in Domikwabenya, they live in Taifa. So even though Adjwasafo has so many roads to do, the ones you focus on...
the ones that are the heads.
So if you listen to the place Domikwabenya, so look, so you have Taifa North,
yes.
Taifa South, strong MPP, Domo West and East, MPP, Kwabenya, MPP, then you have Atomic, MPP, then Hacho, Agbogba, Ablaje, Abokobi, more NDC. But then together, MPP does better. And then people complain that those of them in Abokobi, Frejabano and Co, their roads are not good. Ablaje, Pure Water, Omane, roads are in a bad shape. So these things are playing out even in the electoral area. So you need to just, you need to see the small nuances. But if you compare that to the Ashaiman, okay, Ashaiman, where are the big places for NDC and MPP? MPP, could you just compare the Ashaiman numbers for me quickly?
Yes, so I'm trying to compare, and the screen is on, the numbers are on the screen.
Yes.
Ashaiman has been an NDC stronghold since 2004. Domikwabenya, the same. But if you look at the percentages, 2004, Ashaiman got 18%, NDC got 18% of the difference, right? The difference was 18%. The highest they got was 2008, that's 30%. Now, if you look at Domikwabenya, 2004, 33%. The lowest NPP has gotten in that area is 20%. 2016, they got 35%, right? Now, the population of Domikwabenya is also way higher than Ashaiman. So, if MPP is getting bigger percentages, in absolute numbers, the numbers are also higher. For example, if you look at Domikwabenya, NPP 2004 was 42,000, NDC was 21,000. NPP 2008 was 38,000, NDC was 25,000. They came up. NPP 2012 was 61,000, NDC was 37,000. You see the differences. Now 2016, NPP was 62,000, NDC was 30,000, a difference of 32,000. If you compare to the difference of 15,000 that NDC gave to Ashaiman in 2016, and you net it off, Domikwabenya contributed an extra 15,000 votes to NPP.
So free consultancy to the parties. if you only focus on consistency that you are winning, you are making a mistake. So, for example, Domikwabenya, NDC's candidate is called Akurugu something. If they have a quality candidate, the candidate can still make inroads in a seat that MPP will still win. But eventually, that number will benefit the party. Same for MPP. Baumia went to Ashaiman and he says they should vote for Labaran because they've tried NDC and NDC is not helping them. Baumia knows that Labaran is not going to win Ashaiman. But he's basically saying, if we keep doing better in Ashaiman, we will offset NDC's advantage there to help us in our overall picture. So sometimes, you know, when people are choosing seats to run, they only choose seats that they feel that, well, I have a lot of following, so let me go to a seat that is a safe seat for NDC or MPP. Sometimes smart parties will focus on having a strong candidate in a place that they may not win, but because if they close the gap and the advantage of that party, it helps them in other places, because some of the nuances we are looking at, reviewing the numbers, suggest that doing well in your home is not as great as doing well in your opponent's home. That's why NDC will tell you that, yes, they win the election, Ashanti, they get above 25%.
Okay.
So NDC will be working in Asawase because they know that if they get the numbers in Asawase, it helps them. Even though they will not win anything in Ashanti, that Asawase number is as big as some 2 or 3 places in Volta. Okay.
For example, since 2004, NDC has been targeting 30%
in Ashanti.
over in Ashanti region because they believe that they won't win the region. But if you are getting 30% of the Ashanti region votes, it's going to show up your general gains nationally, which would get you closer to winning the elections. So they try to do a lot of work. Ofurekom constituency, usually they do a lot of work because of the mix of the people. Asawase, they will push, plus the other constituencies that will give them some votes so that they increase their votes in the Ashanti region to add to their national figures.
Okay, Eric says, please, why are you not discussing English here, Mom, from my
we'll have to make time for that because that was the 3 that became 6. So I'll do that tomorrow, God willing. Yes.
And then Caleb from Abokobi says, Madina Abokobi constituency, Abokobi was added to Domi Kwabenya. Okay, this one says, so the entire Abokobi electoral area is now under the Dom Kwabenya constituency since 2012. And then this one also says the administrative capital of Ga East municipality is Abokobi.
Fantastic,
so
that's
I think,
true.
the people in that area.
Yes, so there's a little point. So Ga East municipality, you know, I said Ga North became 3 constituencies. But Ga East is a district. When I said Ga North, I was Ga South and Ga North. I was talking about constituencies. So Ga North constituency became Madina, Abokobi, and Domi Kwabenya.
Yes.
Okay, but not Ga North district.
Okay.
Because Ga North constituency is not the same as Ga North district. Ga South constituency is not the same as Ga South district. Because Ga South district still exists. But Ga South constituency is what they now have as Ga South, Ga West, and Ga Central all together.
And sometimes some of the constituencies and the districts merge, and you will see a constituency somewhere and a part of it is in a certain district. That's why when you look at this particular chart that I'm showing, if you come to Greater Accra region, for example, we have 29 districts, we have 34 constituencies. So you won't have it exactly the same. There will be certain places that will be thrown in, other places will be taken away and put in here.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time, Bernard Avle and Kojo Akoto Boateng. My name is Vivian Kai Lokko. Thank you too for joining us. The repeat of this show is at 10 p.m. tonight. Goodbye.
Diary is sponsored by Samsung. Samsung, inspire the world, create the future.